I'm going to right-click and run as an administrator, and we'll take a look at the configuration of the boot menu and see what that looks like. If I run Bcdedit, it'll actually allow you to take a look and see what it did for the boot menu. And what you'll see is it's pointing to, the partition is pointing to device hard disk volume 1 for my boot manager. So that's where the boot manager is installed, and my only operating system on here is labeled Windows Server 2008 R2. Now let's just do a crash course on the Bcdedit. Bcdedit / to show you some of the switches that are available to us. The boot configuration data store is actually where this information is stored. So there's commands to operate on the entire store. That's these commands here. So you have create store, export, import, and systore. I strongly encourage you, at least until you get familiar with how to use the Bcdedit tool, that you always export your settings so that you can restore them in case something goes very wrong. And as we scroll down a little bit, you'll see also that there are commands that operate on entries in the store. Entries in the store are lines, if you will, in your boot manager. So each server entry would be an entry in the store. You can copy an entry, you can create a new entry, you can delete an entry, and you can mirror an entry in the store. Finally, there are commands that operate on an entry options. So these are commands that you run that work on an individual item, an individual line item. And we'll go into more detail on these, in particular the set command, which is really how you make all your changes to the store. And then you have commands that control output, your enum and your /v for verbose. And then you have commands that control the boot manager itself. So you have things like setting the default entry, what is going to execute automatically if you don't press any key. Let's take a look at some examples. First of all, we have a host with no operating system installed natively. There is just a VHD that is running as the primary OS on an empty hard drive. The first thing that I want to do here is go ahead and clear the screen, and I'm going to do a Bcdedit again to show the current configuration. Now this is a default configuration on a clean boot with no operating system installed. On the hard drive, just one partition, and that partition is a Windows Server 2008 R2 installation that's actually a vdisk, a virtual disk. I'm going to go ahead and change the description on the Windows Server 2008 R2 line item on the boot menu. To do that, I'm going to do Bcdedit, and I want to use the command set. Before I do that, I want to just show you the options for the set command. And if we scroll up and take a look at that, you'll see that the command is, you can have an optional the file name, like where the store is located, set, and it's looking for an ID. And notice the brackets there tell you that that's optional parameter. A data value, a data type, and then a value. The item that I want to change then is the description, so I'm going to do Bcdedit and set. The identifier that I want to use is current, so you can mark and copy that. Since it is the current, it's fairly small. You can type that in if you like. And the value that I want to change is the description. Or the property I want to change is description. And the value that I want to set it to is going to be, let's change it to Windows Server 2008 R2 Demo VHD. And it says that that operation was successful. So now if I do a Bcdedit again, it will display the contents, and you'll see that it has the new name. So changing the values in this is very, very simple. Let's take a look at another example. In this case, we have Windows Server 2008 R2 running as a host OS, and we're going to look at a VHD file that is available for booting in that same OS. Now, I'm booted into the host, not into the VHD. So the current configuration is pointing directly to the C drive. Notice it looks a little different. Whenever you're booting to for whatever operating system you're actually booting to, it's always going to show a particular partition. That is because the VHD is automatically attached during the boot process. So it actually shows as a physical drive, as a physical partition. But this is what the configuration is going to look like when it is actually a VHD, along with where that VHD file is located. In our case, if we wanted to copy an existing configuration or create a new one, we could do that with the Bcdedit tool. I'm going to use a /copy switch, and I'm going to use the default identifier. And I'm going to use a /d switch to give it a description. And the description I'm going to give it is copy of boot demo. Notice it gave me a new ID. Run Bcdedit again, and you'll see that I have a copy of boot demo. Now, to make that file, to actually use a different file, I can actually change that file name as well. So let's run an experiment here. I'm going to simulate having just a standard VHD that I've created on Hyper-V on this physical disk. But what I'm actually going to do is just make a copy of an existing one. Notice the file size is about 7 gig. That is a pretty clean Server 2008 R2 installation. I'm going to go ahead and change this to copy of demo. So I'm going to use this identifier. And I want to set the device. Instead of boot demo, I'm going to change it to sysprep.vhd. And I'm going to do the same thing for the OS device, which is here. It's the same thing. Now I can actually reboot this machine and load the operating system on the sysprep.vhd and actually sysprep that VHD. The last thing that I want to show is I can actually attach using Disk Manager a VHD. Notice that my primary disk, my C drive, is a physical disk. It's not a VHD. I can right-click. Even if it were a VHD, I could still do this. Attach a VHD. Notice I can also create a VHD, rescan or refresh. I'm going to attach the VHD, browse to the location where that file is stored. It's on the C drive, VHD folder, and let's grab the sysprep. Okay. And I can now open that file. that drive. To detach the VHD, just right-click on the disk and detach VHD. You can delete the virtual hard disk after removing it, but I'm not going to in this case.